But yeah, to start, let's start with the agenda for today. Besides going into what is deep funding, we'll have a presentation from the Dev Outreach Circle from Gavriel. And we'll have, it's not an open agenda town hall, it's actually the presentation by Joanna and Igor from Photrek, and we'll show you more about that later. We have here the slide. Just for a little bit of context, Deep Funding is a decentralized grants program, and it's tasked with the goal of funding projects and initiatives that are actually beneficial to SingularityNET. And for a bit of context, what is SingularityNET and what is the goal? Basically, SingularityNET is a decentralized effort to create democratic, decentralized, and beneficial AGI. And as part of our community, these are some of our core values, the values we guide ourselves with, that are openness, creativity, collaboration, and kindness. So this is a free, open, decentralized community. Everyone is welcome to join. And these are just the principles we expect everyone to follow and the principles that are crucial for collaboration and for growth as a community. In terms of deep funding and opportunities for you inside of deep funding, there are a lot. We have regular funding rounds where we select the best projects for the development of this beneficial AI. So you can actually propose your own ideas. You can vote on the best ideas for our goals. And also you can review the proposals, help them improve for a next round. Besides that, we are so open that everything is up for this discussion with the community, our processes, what we do, everything. So you can come here and have a word and help us improve on what we are doing. And then you also have other opportunities such as circles, because deep funding is run as well by the community. And we have circles for specific purposes to execute specific operations inside deep funding. As for this town hall, this event is for you, is where the community joins to talk about any topic we feel it's important, any topic you want to bring to the community for discussion. So it's also the best place to learn about deep funding, to ask questions, to connect with the community. And at the end of the day, as I said before, we want to hear from you, the community. So anything you want to bring, just speak to us. We'll have also soon a community website where you'll be able to apply automatically. Hopefully soon we'll bring you more updates on that. And yeah, any completion, any project, anything you have, just speak to us and we'd love to have you here. All right, now we'll have the Dev Outreach Circle presentation by Gavriel, and then the Simulating the Quality of Community Decisions by Photrek. But before going on to that, I'm just going to check if Rafael wants to give us a quick word.
Thank you.
While that's happening, can you enable screen share so I can prepare that? Over to you, Rafael. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Gavriel, and thank you for the presenters of today. It's good to have even more than one, right, from the community to give these talks, and this shows the commitment of this event circle to bring more and more content into it. Thank you very much, Cardoso, you, also Victor, for taking the lead here and making it happen. Very good. Nice. And yes, I do have some announcements. The most important one, and that it's actually an invite to the next town hall in 2 weeks. Okay, as many of you already know, we have this work group for changes towards the round 5. So we are discussing within this work group some changes that we are willing to have in round 5, always aiming for improving things. As I mentioned, these are proposals, okay? It's not that we are defining in a very centralized way what we are going to do or change, but we want to start from somewhere. So we detected 3 main challenges for the rounds, which involves quality on proposals first, the proposals that are submitted, the reviews on these proposals, which is very important. And the third front in these changes is the voting process, right? So we have these 3 separated but interconnected subjects that we are willing to propose some changes in our processes that are going to tackle the challenge itself, mainly from the feedback that the community gave after round 4. Okay, so yeah, already put there in your agenda, in your schedule for you to participate, give your feedback, and understand what's going on. So it's going to be very, very exciting. Also, we are working in this playbook on Gitbook. The playbook, it's going to be an open step-by-step process for everything that we do in Deep Funding, operationally speaking. And you are going to be able to check whether if you are a proposer, if you are a voter, if you are a circle member, if you are part of the Deep Funding staff or team, and so on. So we want to give this tool as a tool for the decentralized approach, right? Whoever is willing to work and promote these tasks or perform the tasks that we have, they are going to be able to go into this link in Gitbook and check, so this is how we do town halls. Okay, now I can understand, and I have access there to the forms that are needed or the links for Zoom calls, etc., etc. Who should I contact in any case? So that's going to be a Deep Funding manual, let's call it like this. Okay, so you are working that along with the operational circle. Also last week, we had the all hands, the first open all hands, which was a very interesting experience. And I am looking forward for the next one next week. As you probably know, we have town halls in 1 week and open all hands in the next one, which brings this circle strategy closer to the community and the ecosystem in general, allowing for all of you to get insights or also contribute with our operations. Okay, so next week, Wednesday, Rafael, 2 p.m. UTC.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
2
my
p.m.
mind
UTC.
my mind is still sharp. Yeah.
And next all hands will be open all hands. So we have 2 all hands. One is open. We bring any topics and we discuss them. And the other one is where you see the updates of what the circle has been doing, what each circle has been doing.
Exactly. So you all can participate in the open all hands and check what's going on internally. Let's put it this way. It's not kind of internal, right? As we are so decentralized. It's by the community and for the community. I am used to say. So yes, feel free to reach out, any one of you that need something and or ideas or any input that you want to do. Well, individually with me through Mattermost, but also participating in these gatherings that we have for you. Okay, Cardoso, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, and let's keep going. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, but it's not mine. It's for Gavriel. Please, Gavriel, tell us all about the Dev Outreach Circle.
Thank you. Hello, friends. I'm sharing my screen. Should be visible now. I'm filling in for Andrea. Andrea joined us just 2 months ago, and she stepped up to produce these slides, and she's got involved with the circle. And it's testament to how we can involve and include brand new people into the community, and they can start being productive and helpful and learning and enjoying themselves and contributing. She just couldn't happen to be here today to actually make her presentation. So I'm filling in. I think I'll do an okay job of it. So the topic is the Developer Outreach Circle. And there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 people listed there. We probably get about 6 people show up every week to every week's call. And I'm just giving a very basic overview of what kinds of things we're doing and looking at, so we can get participation or ideas from the rest of the community, and just to keep you guys informed. So there's three things that we're going to cover. Growing the developer awareness and participation in deep funding is obviously one of the key objectives, especially for the developer outreach circle. Improving the marketplace utilization is also listed as one of our main objectives. And I know as a community, it's obvious that we're all involved similarly in these objectives in one way or another. And our circle is focused on these objectives and looking for ways that we can approach it from the perspective of developer outreach. So the third one there is obtaining quality AI services for the marketplace. I'm going to show you a table. If I click the tab, hopefully you can now see a spreadsheet. I'm not going to go through the contents of the spreadsheet, but I just want to go through this structure, the kind of thinking that I think is useful when thinking about developer outreach, because the truth is that there is no single one type of developer. There's many. So how can we as a funding community, or as a developer community, as an AI interest enthusiast community, how can we possibly appeal to all of this diversity? So I'm just going to go through the structure. We don't need to label on the little fine print text that's in the table. But we've got different types of developers. So there are junior developers. There's AI specialists. There's UX designers who are also relevant at putting services and interfaces together that would be useful in products for people to actually make use of the services. So we have to account for them in some way, whether directly we're making opportunity for them, or we have to understand them and what they might want in terms of adoption. Do they want color palettes or design system components that they can bring into their development work? There's product managers. We should also be thinking about a developer can be thought of as a product manager just as much as an engineer who's coding, because the product manager is thinking about the holistic product itself, the features, how it's going to be used by the goals of the end user, and so on. I'm going to make one personal comment. I've got rain, and if it's too noisy, I might not even be able to hear myself think if it rains heavy. So just a caveat on that. I'll move on. So indie developers, these are independent. They go to different forums. They're doing their own thing. They might be using Bubble to produce no code or low code applications. So they have a different type of developer that maybe somehow we should be able to cater for. Front-end developers, back-end developers, full stack professional developers, full stack indie teams. Oftentimes an independent developer group will just be a few buddies and they're looking for a project and an opportunity. And then you've got development agencies who are professional outfits. They're looking for services they can use in their client work. And then there's chief technology officers or developer directors. And that's another type of level of conversation to have as well. So just to quickly go down the side, the rows here. What are their agendas? What do they believe and want from the perspective of an AI marketplace? Do we know? To what extent do we know? How much are we assuming or making guesswork? How can we start to explore what do they want from a marketplace? The next row there is the expectations of us. So the first one is their agenda. What do they want? What do they believe? What are they trying to achieve for themselves? And then the second one is, okay, so in relation to us, what do they want possibly from us? What could we possibly provide them? And it might be education, it might be the AI service itself, it might be developers who are savvy with AI service integrations that we can lend them for a period of time. Again, who knows until we have those conversations. The next row there is our current reputation. What they say we are. If they knew about us, how would they judge us or how would they describe us to one of their industry peers? And that lens can help us think about our positioning, our branding, our messaging. The next one there is behavioral change goals. what are the objectives that we have for them? What do we want them to start doing differently? So maybe they already go and look for services on other platforms, but we want them to consciously decide to come and look at the SingularityNET marketplace in order to obtain their AI services. So we've got to, I'm suggesting we want to be clear on the behavioral change that we might want all of these different types of developers to start making, because that then helps to inform the next row, which is our message, what we say we are in the marketplace. So this was at the beginning of a study. I haven't progressed anymore. You can see there's some question marks. I got a few words here and there. If there are people interested, then of course we can share the link to this sheet, maybe make it a workshop at some point or something like that. But this is the kind of consideration that we want to start moving towards from the developer outreach circle. So I'll carry on with the slides. So now we look at the current initiatives, right? I suggested there's like this infinitely big picture of ambiguous question marks, but we've got to start somewhere. So this is the current initiatives of the developer outreach circle. The first here, and I'm going to go through a little bit of detail for each one in the next few slides, but just to list them: running a hackathon to raise awareness, assisting a third-party hackathon by the name of Hackatra, and we can have a quick look at what they're doing, with marketing support. Our goal is to have third-party hackathons to actually build AI services or use the AI services that are available on the SingularityNET marketplace. And then the third one there is Riyadh in the group, in the circle, is reaching out to colleges throughout India as a starting country about the potential for partnerships for future hackathons or other types of thought leadership, content creation that we can do, other ways that we can associate with educational institutions. Maybe that extends to boot camps. You know, coder boot camps. Maybe we can collaborate with them. So Riyadh is spearheading that at the moment with colleges in India. So a little bit. So I'm gonna pause there, just see if there's any reflections, any comments, questions. I don't have any answers, but someone might. But any thoughts from the group? Otherwise, I'll continue with the slides here. Feel free to jump in. Okay, so the hackathon objective, Andrea has written here: enlisting new talent, developing creative ideas, and speeding up product development, as well as onboarding new services. Now that was quite a long sentence, so I'm putting comprehension back onto Andrea maybe to unpack that. But I think we get the gist. We understand what hackathons are about. And this is one piece of the puzzle of a type of project that we think we can use to help engage with developers at different levels and bring them into the community. So we're mapping this out. We meet, we talk about it, we try and think through what we've got. A long checklist somewhere. I couldn't find that document just now. But there's a checklist of items, but this is the gist. So maybe we have a 1-week hackathon. Maybe we give 70% of the prize money for those who are announced as winners based on a panel of judges, and then maybe we reserve 30% of the prize money for the projects that actually go ahead and are able to list the service in the marketplace. Because at the end of the day, this is about having services added to and utilized from the SingularityNET marketplace. And then we had an idea for a further reward. I'll read it there. We'll go to the best solution that utilizes an existing AI service on the marketplace. So we've got these projects coming in for hackathons. Maybe they don't need to reinvent the wheel. Maybe they can actually find and adopt something that's already on our marketplace for use, and there'll be rewards for that as well. And then we think maybe the onboarding process is going to take a couple of months. as the platform develops and the integration become easier, but we're earmarking for maybe it takes 2 months to actually get things listed. So those were some ideas, just a reflection of ideas. I'm moving on now to the Hackathon, which is the third party. They're already doing, they've just completed actually their current hackathon cycle. So this is the website, they're listed on DevPost. They had 262 participants, which is pretty great. And look, they only gave away $2,000 in prizes. And I think Deep Funding can match or exceed that, right? That's the sentiment in the circle. So if one hackathon can get 262 participants and only give away 2,000 in prizes and have something productive to show for it, then maybe this is actually a worthwhile opportunity. Again, running our own hackathons or supporting hackathons of others and offering some sponsorship money to them, adding a judge to the panelists that they have, and so forth. Let me jump back to the slides here. So yeah, so this was what they were doing, and this is how we were thinking of getting involved with their current one. But we've decided, the circle has decided that it's better to do a bit more preparation and be earlier to Hackathon's next hackathon to really be part of the co-branded co-marketing, so we get more visibility as they are progressing with their hackathon. Hopefully that makes sense, and that's the summary of that one. Coming towards the end now, I want to show you one more document, and this is to suggest that there are many possible projects that we could approach, either from the developer outreach circle or as a community at large. So here's the document. And again, I'm not going to, it's quite extensive, but I'll just show you the gist, right? So we started off with this diagram that Jan produced quite a long time ago. And we started to break that down into what are the possibilities here? What could we do in terms of developer outreach? So we got a few diagrams and bullet points and structure, but then we got some specifics. So we want a community portal, which Jan mentioned on June 26th. And my understanding is that that's well progressed now, coming online relatively soon. Excited to see what's actually happening there. Next one we had here is theme-driven hackathons, which, as I've just outlined, we are progressing with as the first point of attack into the market. Another idea, which I think somehow came from Jan, or he picked it from somewhere. I've run Shark Tank type hackathon sessions before as well, but this is the idea of a Singularity Shark Tank. So this is the idea: people get up and pitch what they intend to create, or the most fantastic AI service that they can imagine. And then there's a panel of judges that ask questions and ask for details and give some suggestions, and we can make an edutaining, educational and entertaining event that hopefully can be publicized and help attract more developers again into the community. Developer community events and experience, opportunity for an event circle, which I think as well is in some way progressing. But the more events, the more small events, it doesn't have to be a town hall is supposedly for everyone. There might be 50 events happening in a month, and they're not relevant for everyone, but a small subset of the community. Just like I outlined on the spreadsheet earlier, there might be different types of events happening for these different types of developer. Maybe we can hold something for product managers, that they come into the community for an event, an experience, and they get a good impression and they understand what we're doing. And then maybe they will recommend looking at SingularityNET Marketplace to their engineers in the future. So there's many possibilities for events and experiences in the community. Moving on, idea of an X space or X community. So we could hold X spaces on a regular basis with a specific topic where some of us get together and we talk about issues. And because it's on X, we've got visibility of the whole world of developers. So this is one way that we could use to grow the community, get visibility. Another one is an academy. I know that started, it was funded as one of the projects, but that has been focused to date on onboarding existing members in the community. But maybe we could position an academy that would appeal externally to AI developers and provide them with education, or some kind of education, or different types of developers. So this is extending what we've already started as an academy so that it accounts for more. Co-marketing is another one, as an idea. You know, there's so many funded projects, the ones that are active, and we're going to hear from one of those very active funded projects immediately after my little presentation. There's maybe co-marketing opportunities with these funded projects. We can promote them just as they promote us on each other's social channels. So we're amplifying everyone's message, and a rising tide lifts all boats. So there's, I think, big opportunity for co-marketing, and this itself will then help to attract external developers into the community. Colleges I've touched on, being spearheaded by Riyadh in India at the moment, and then we want to transition over into Africa, and then other parts, Latin America as well, and other parts of the world. I'm particularly interested in running an incubator program. I did that for a Web3 VC in 2022. I want to be able to help projects look at their commercial strategy, their go-to-market strategy, which is how do they launch, how might they attract equity investment if they're interested. This is the kind of area that I would like to contribute, and that's the end of that document. So to bring this in for a landing, let me jump back to the slides. The circle meets weekly. We have external calls. We have subgroups. We have a technical focus subgroup and a non-technical focus subgroup. We have our task lists. We're trying to collaborate more with the existing marketing circle. And there you go. I'll leave it there. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Gavriel. If anyone has any questions for Gavriel, please go ahead. I think it was a great presentation, and also I think there's space to also maybe discuss with the awarded teams or with other projects we have, and ask them what are like the big challenges, maybe things they were missing. Maybe we can get something interesting there for you to see the pain points, I guess, of the developers in the community that probably can be pain points stopping others from joining.
Just to add, I think Ishan has shared a document to see the checklist of what we're doing. In case you want to go through, you can actually check this, check the document and see how far we've got.
Yeah, thank you, Ubio. That's very important. I would love to see as well. I'm going to click the link there. And thank you, Gavriel. If no one has questions or remarks, I would love to thank you, Gavriel, Ubio, Ish, all the team that is involved in this, 8 people, right? We can see here clearly how bursting is this environment of devs outreach, which is very interesting. Jan mentions time over time that it's very interesting to see things happening without us putting the hand, right? And that's the way it should happen, not only with this circle, but others as well. One thing that calls my attention here, and we discussed it, particularly I remember Gavriel in the call a few weeks or months ago, actually, about this diversity in how we fund ideas. Perhaps you have a great idea in AI, but not necessarily you have the skills to write a proposal. But you are good in front of cameras. So the Shark Tank is perfect, right? So having different ways of approaching, perhaps your way of doing stuff, it's in a hackathon, not necessarily going through a regular and conventional round. So should we avoid to invest or to fund, actually fund, in a project that can bring a lot of value to the community ecosystem and the purpose and mission of SingularityNET? No. We have to go with different ways of funding projects, and that's what the Dev Outreach is here, at least in the planning side, with the hackathon coming around the corner, which is very good. That's why it's very important to have this perspective as well, right? So thank you very much for going into this direction, guys. I would like also to sometimes from the community, you might be seeing overlaps in between the circles, right? We have here, I mentioned it about the event circle, which is led here by Ayo, Rafael, Victor. And then you see Dev Outreach talking about events as well. So, and also marketing, right? Which is a third circle that might be interesting, get into this. To give an overview of the vision that I had when creating or suggesting or appearing things, it's, for instance, the event circle will support the Dev Outreach circle with their events. If the Dev Outreach circle is interested in, they can say, yeah, no, we are able to do this by ourselves. It's not that the event circle will execute and be the lead of the event, let's say the hackathon. No, but the tools, the Zoom account, for instance, will come from the event circle because they are going to have the expertise in it. Perhaps, if necessary, the host itself, and so on. So this is the type of support that some circles will give to others. The marketing in their side, the marketing circle, can create the illustration. They created, through a funded project, they created the kit, the brand kit. So they have the right way of doing the illustrations for the Dev Outreach circle, push towards the community and make the announcement and awareness in the community. So now we can see, and I am very happy to see that circles are starting, and I saw a lot in the document Gavriel shared now, starting to connect and interconnect and work together. That's the idea of the circles strategy. It's not for the circles to become silos, right? It's for all the circles to interact and use in some way the other circle in what they can provide. So very good to see this. Thank you, Gavriel, again. Thank you all. And Gavriel, you feel it well, not sure about Andrea if she would be do better, but it was you were very good in doing the presentation. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Andrea is certainly prettier to look at least.
Thank you. Thank you, Rafael, as well, for your comments and also the clarifications about how everything is working and coming together. And now, please, Joanna, Igor, would love to hear from you, from your progress, and from Photrek as well. I don't know if Kenrick will speak or not, but just in case.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us present today. We're very excited to present some of the findings that are results from the simulation project that Igor and Andre led. This is very interesting because it's also quite related to a lot of the efforts that we've been doing with reputation work and voting weight within deep funding. So I'll just do a quick introduction on what Photrek is. Next slide, please, Igor. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know Photrek, I'm Joanna. I'm leading the SingularityNET circle. So Photrek is an innovation company, and we work mainly in 3 segments or sectors: risk intelligence, DAO governance, and environmental impact. And today, actually, there's a lot of familiar faces, people that are involved with Photrek. So there's Igor, Kenrick, Musa, and we have a new addition. Barry is here as well. He's going to be supporting us on our new on our Deep Funding 4 proposal. That's the effort on RFP designs for reputation and voting weight. So Igor is going to be presenting the simulation project that they worked on and the results, and I'll continue on with some recommendations as well.
Okay, so hello everyone. I am very happy to be here present this project. So in this project, we investigate 12 different voting systems and how they impact the decision-making quality of the community. So we simulated how the opinion and sentiments of the individuals about the proposals and how people would vote. So we simulated a complex social community of people interacting with each other. This project has all the people from Photrek, and we also had an independent red team with Deborah and Walter. So I am very grateful to Deborah and Walter because they analyzed our work, helped us improve the simulation. This is very important because this project is very complex. So I will not show everything here today. I will just focus on the main results of the simulation, okay? So I want to start with the question, why to simulate the voting system? Why? Who cares? So the first point is, some voting systems are better than other voting systems. Some voting systems are more robust and they can provide better welfare to the community. So people can be more happy about the outcomes of the voting. So, but here is a problem. It is not easy to implement a voting system. And it can be even harder if you don't know if the voting system is good. So here is the simulation. The simulation can provide evidence if a voting system is good to the community. So that's why we simulated a lot of voting systems so we can understand what voting systems are better to the community. Okay, now it's very important the simulation must be data-driven so it can provide realistic results. So let's start. I will begin with a general view of the simulation, okay? So the first step, we use data from Deep Funding to generate the credit distribution of the users and also the funding of the proposals that we will use in the simulation. Okay, second step, we will simulate the opinion of the users in Deep Funding about the proposals and how they will vote on each proposal. And third point, we will simulate the people voting in a lot of voting systems, and we will find the results, the outcomes of the voting. And finally, in the last step, with the outcomes, we will calculate the aggregate voter welfare. So we will calculate how happy are people with the outcome of the voting. So our big goal here, our goal is to find a voting system that will maximize the voter welfare. So this will be good to the community. Okay, so let's start with data. This is the data, the distribution of the balance of the users in Deep Funding. So you can see the distribution is very skewed. So the top wallet has 86% of all the tokens of the users. So it's very high. You can see here the distribution, and in the inset, I show in the log scale. So it's more easy to show, to see. Né? Okay, so I have a distribution who models the distribution of the users in Deep Funding. I used a Weibull distribution here. So this is very important because with this data, with this model, I can generate the user balance distribution in the simulation. So the simulation will be very realistic. Okay, so I have the fit for the user's balance distribution. Now, I did the same thing to the funding of the proposals. So I think everyone knows here we have 6 pools. So I did a model for each pool. So you can see here, for example, the community-driven request for proposal pool. I did a fitting of how much funding the proposal asked for in this pool. Also for the ideation, you can see that in the ideation pool, almost all proposals ask for 5,000 to be funded, and so on. So here I model with the exponential, and I did the same thing for the other pools. So you can see the market initiative pool, the miscellaneous pool, the new projects pool, and the request for proposal design pool. So I model the distribution of funding of the proposals for each one of these pools, and I am using this data in the simulation. Now, I need to simulate the opinion of the users about the proposals. So I want to start with a very important question. So the question is, does the proposal funding the request affect the community rating? And actually, the answer, you can see in this figure, the behavior is pretty random. So the proposal funding request does not significantly impact how people vote on the proposal. So in the simulation, we will consider that the proposal funding request is not important in simulating how people will vote on the proposal. Okay, so how I will simulate the users' opinions about the proposal. So we have a model because people are social, people influence each other. So we need to simulate how people will interact. This is very important in the decision making. So first step, when one proposal is created in Deep Funding, it has no reviews. The proposal is new. Okay, but second step, one individual, one user, will read the proposal with one probability, which is 1 minus the probability of skipping the proposal. So if the user reads the proposal, the user will get a sentiment, the user will get an opinion about that proposal. And we model this initial opinion distribution using a curve de Gaussian. So this curve de Gaussian has an average, me, which represents the true equality of the proposal, and it also has a standard deviation. So this standard deviation model how different people will interpret the proposal. So different subpopulation will find the same proposal in different way. So maybe think this proposal is very good, but I think this proposal is not so good. So we model using this curve de Gaussian distribution. Okay, the user will get a sentiment, opinion about that proposal, and he will have a probability of posting his opinion in Deep Funding. So he will write a review, a comment, and publish in Deep Funding so everyone can see your review about that proposal. Now, here is the point. People can transmit different sentiment with the comments. What they write is very important. So, for example, you can see here one comment. User A give 5 stars for one proposal, and the user A wrote, "This project is very good." Okay, but here I have other comment of user B, which also a 5-star review, but the user B wrote, "This proposal is excellent. The team is awesome. It is a revolutionary project." So these comments are transmitting very different sentiment. So what the user write is very important. So that's why the curve de Gaussian has no boundary, because the sentiment of the people about the proposal can be really extreme. So you can see user B has an extreme opinion, extreme positive opinion about the proposal. So we take this into account when we simulate use the curve de Gaussian. Okay, now here's come the social point, the social network of people interacting. So step number 4. The people will write a comment in Deep Funding, okay, but the next people who read the proposal will be affected by the comments of these people. So, for example, maybe you see the proposal and you think, this proposal is 3-star. But maybe you see these 2 reviews saying, this proposal is 5-star. So maybe you think, hey, maybe this proposal is not so bad. Maybe this proposal is 4-star. So people will influence your opinion. And in a lot of times, we don't really acknowledge this. So it's very unconscious. It's a social effect. And it's not always we are conscious about this effect, but we are always influencing and being influenced by other individuals. Okay, so when we are influenced by these individuals, we have absolutely 2 main points. We have the conformity and we have the non-conformity. So these equations are modeling how your opinion will change when you see the opinion of other individuals. So basically, mathematically, these equations are saying for the conformity, you will have a tendency to approach your opinion to the average opinion of the people about that proposal. But how much? Some people are more independent and the others don't. So one thing is very important here, I want to emphasize about this equation is the inertia. So the inertia is model the non-conformity of the people. So some people have more non-conformity and the others don't. So some people will have a stronger conformity to the opinions of people and the others a little less. And also you can behave with non-conformity. You can disagree with the majority of people are saying about that proposal. So we use this equation in our simulation. And we have a third equation about the social pressure. Because, okay, we have the inertia, is the non-conformity of people, but if we have a lot of people saying this proposal is very good, it's very hard to non-conform to that, to disagree with that. So as the number of people saying one thing increases, your non-conformity decreases. So we model also this social pressure. So we have these 3 equations to model in our simulation about how people will get a sentiment or an opinion about the proposal. Okay, so we need now the voting system. So the SingularityNET system, I think the majority of you understand really well. So in the SingularityNET system, the user can skip a proposal or give a grade from 1 to 10. And the weight of the user is the square root of the balance of the user, the number of tokens. So we can calculate the weighted grade or the average grade of a proposal using this equation, where the weight of the user is the square root of his balance. And you also know we have in Deep Funding eligibility criteria. So the criteria is the proposal needs votes from at least 1% of the total number of voters. Also, it needs a minimum average grade of 6.5. And the proposal must fit the pool's budget after highly voted proposals are funded. Okay, so this is the system we have now in Deep Funding. Let's see other systems. So we have 1 coin, 1 vote. 1 coin, 1 vote is very similar, but we don't have the square root, okay? Oh, sorry. We don't have the square root here, okay? So one coin is one vote. And we have the binary SingularityNET system. In the binary SingularityNET system, you can approve or disapprove a proposal. So you don't have grades. You don't have grades from 1 to 10. You just have grades 1 or -1. Yes or no. And here we have the star of today. Preferential quadratic voting. In preferential quadratic voting, the idea is, imagine, for example, I have a voter with 100 tokens. So I will take the square root of 100, which is 10. So this voter has 10 credits. And this voter can distribute his credits among the proposal. For example, he can give 7 credits to proposal 1, and he can give 3 credits to proposal 2. So people can express the preference about the proposal, distributing their credits among the proposal. So you can calculate the votes in the proposal will be the number of credits the proposal receiving. Here is one very important point. In general, in the SingularityNET, the eligibility criteria is the minimum average grade must be 6.5. But here, the credits are unbounded. You can distribute a lot of credits to one proposal depending on how much tokens you have. So we need to change the eligibility criteria. I see Kenrick has a question.
Yes, Igor, I just want to clarify something here. This is, first of all, compliment Igor for quite amazing work on all of this. He's been working several months on it, and you'll see in a moment there's really nice results here. But I didn't get to fully review the presentation, and I'm seeing something that might be misunderstood here in this slide. So there's 2 steps here. There's the square root that gives you the number of credits. So 100 AGX becomes 10 credits. That's similar to what SingularityNET currently does, the square root of what's in your wallet. And then those credits get distributed by how much you want to rank the proposal. So it's a rank voting kind of process. But then there's an additional step. There's a square root of the credits. So the number of votes that would get applied to proposal 1 would be the square root of 7. And the number of votes that get applied to proposal 2 would be the square root of 3. So there's a 2-step process here in taking the square roots to get the votes for each proposal.
Okay, so the square root 2 times.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kenrick. Yeah, I will fix that after. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
Rafael.
I think I'm a little bit confused there. I don't know if this is the right time to actually ask or let you finish your your presentation.
Go ahead. It's good to have questions.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing here. So first we have the 100 AGX, which represents the wallet balance, and then which has now been, so we now have quadratic equation on that 100. So we now have 10, which is now the voting power. So now in the preferential quadratic voting, I thought that should now mean the voting power distributed according to the ranking. So probably if the ranking is, if I'm ranking 1 to 5, then there can be 1 to 5 can be a factor of 10, right? So with different factors from 5 to 1 being represented on whatever I do put, and then that factor is what is now being multiplied by 10 in quote, and then put in as a balance for me. That's what I did think the preferential quadratic voting is. But now I'm now rather seeing something else that you are introducing, which is now the further this further square root on that which has already been square rooted. So I'm trying to, one, understand why is that important? Why do we need a further square root? And then how does this bring any sort of preferentialness in terms of either ranking or in terms of distribution into the system? So those are the questions in my head.
Yeah, good question. So, here we are considering in the simulation, the user is free, totally free to distribute his credit. So if his user has 10 credits, he can distribute in any way he can. So we can give, for example, 90.1 credits to this proposal and 0.9 credits to proposal 2. He is free. Now, the point of the square root is because I showed the balance distribution is very skewed. So you can see here in this figure. So the point is we want to make the decision-making process more fair to everybody. So the square root is to help with this. So
Let me add to the
answered.
answer to Obio in the following way. The idea would be that the way you distribute your credits and then the square root of that would replace the ranking from 1 to 10. So that's the core thing that we're comparing. And the reason we're advocating that we investigate this is because although we've been calling it quadratic voting, the square root of the wallet isn't actually the main point of quadratic voting. The real point was this weighting of preferences.
Yeah.
And furthermore, when we talked to Jan in particular, and we got some feedback from SingularityNET, what was decided is that even though we were recommending to use this way of assigning credits and then taking the square root of the credits across the proposals, they still wanted to preserve the square root of the wallet itself. So we're preserving that component. And so now you have kind of two components. One component is kind of redistributing the distribution of wealth. And then a second component is to analyze whether we can improve the ranking process by adding this cost. Because right now you're free to rank from 1 to 10, and it doesn't cost you anything different to rank from 1 to 10.
Yeah, as a clarification here, Kenrique, yeah, very good point is now the way it is, if I have 100 AGIX, and then we already have the quadratic voting, I can vote in 210 proposals using my 10 credits. So I now it's called preferential because I'm going to pick which proposals I'm going to distribute my 10 credits, right? That's the main difference in between what we have now and what is being proposed here. So I really enjoy this. It's good in many levels for the security of the vote, let's call it like this. One question though, Kenrick, for you, why it's important, or why is the way of doing it having the second square root on the credits after I split in the way I want? From my perspective, only once would be good enough, as Igor first put here.
The reason is that what you're really doing is pricing influence. We think about votes, but votes are not the amount of power you have. And if you dig into the mathematics of voting, it turns out that your ability to influence a decision, which is measured by the probability that your vote will change the outcome, that grows quadratically as you have more weight in the process. So you have to think about it that by taking the square root, you're getting a more accurate price on how much influence you have on the outcome. And then in particular, if you don't do the square root at this second level on each proposal, then there would still be a tendency in which you would get an advantage by expressing some extreme opinion rather than a more honest opinion about what your real sentiment is about that proposal. So you'll see in a moment, part of what we're trying to get at is if I have a certain sentiment about the proposal, is it my advantage to express that truthful sentiment, or do I get some advantage by expressing a more extreme sentiment? And because by being more extreme, I've increased my influence on the outcome.
Yeah. Okay. I see the point. It's almost, if not the case of Heisenberg uncertainty theory, right? If you do something, you are going to mess. Sorry?
Sure.
Awesome.
So yeah. So I think we are getting there. But a question now, it's from the mathematics perspective. Aren't we reducing too much? Imagine well, the power of with the second. If I put the 10 credits, it's still having the square root as well, right? So, okay. Yeah, no,
The way
it seems fair.
about it is this, is that the actual system of quadratic voting, which actually doesn't involve the square root of the wallet, it's not, often it's perceived as a way of disadvantaging the wealthy or balancing the people that aren't wealthy, but that's not its real, or certainly not its first order effect. The wealthy are still going to have an advantage. What it's really doing is making sure that everyone's paying a fair price. So the way to think about it is you could still buy your Lamborghini if you have enough money to buy the Lamborghini, but you have to pay a fair price for this Lamborghini. You know, and what's happening in community public votings, it's not a linear process of how many votes I want to buy. Rather, it's a linear process of how much influence I have on the outcome.
No, the idea is clear. It's just to make sure that every voter it's going to go through the same two square roots process, right? The first one, and then when you split. Otherwise, it might create some unfair situation where only myself, which am splitting through different proposals, am going to be twice square rooted.
Well,
right?
it's actually the other way around. So if you spread your credits across more proposals, then the impact of that second square root will be less. Whereas if you put all your credits onto one proposal, then you're going to get a very heavy penalty for that, because you're using your wealth to be more extreme about one proposal.
That's the answer I was looking for. Yes, thank you very much. You answered now. Yeah, it's clear. It's completely clear. Yeah. By the way, with this type of proposals, especially if we want to use in round 5, it's good to also connect with the work group, the round 5 changes work group, for us to discuss this.
We will do that, because we do have a recommendation for round 5. We'll talk about.
So please get in contact with me, and then we can organize. Okay, thank you.
I think also
Bill has a question.
Yeah, Ubio has a question. Bia had her hand up before. I also don't know if she wants to say something or not. Then maybe she doesn't have a question anymore. So go ahead, Ubio. Bia, if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Okay, yeah. So what I wanted to say is I think that last statement speaks to what a lot of questions I had. So I think that has probably dropped like 3 questions I had in my head, but probably still one left. So my problem with the preferential quadratic voting is, how does this incentivize people to be to engage in voting itself, right? Somehow I think so. There is that whole question of how does this balance up between encouraging people to be much more involved and much more engaged in voting, and the fact that we need people to vote on opinions that they only feel strongly about. Now, that is how I'm looking at it. I think this is actually incentivizing people to vote only on projects that they are actually hold strong opinions on. And it also will probably also incentivize people to be very selective with voting. We may end up at the end of the system having a reduced amount of voting against empowered, like more amount of voting, because voting now becomes a scarce resource, right? And not something that, so people now people can see a project that they want to vote and be like, oh, I've already voted for the 5 projects that I wanted to that I saw, and I think that's all. My credit is probably gone, so I can't vote again. And even if I do, it's probably going to be nearly zero. It's tending towards zero at that point, because I'm just looking at how that how the equation works towards after you've been able to exercise your vote on probably the first 10 and all of that. Let's assume someone has 10 credits, right? And then has probably put in a lot of it on the first few. So as it tending towards the other one, it reduces. So people are not incentivized to actually vote anymore.
Yeah, let me try to address some of that, Ovio, because these are great questions. So in addition to the work that Igor has done with this simulation, there will be a need to do work on how you would design the user interface. So for instance, one of the things I'm kind of imagining is that in a pool, people would select which proposals they want to express an opinion on, right? And then they might shift to another window where now they're asked to rank, like kind of sort just by ranking them, which proposals they like best. And then finally, that might have an automated script that would give kind of the distribution of the credits in a certain way that maybe is linear across the influence as I'm describing, but quadratic in the credits or something like that. And then finally, for those that want to be more careful about how they're ranking it, then they could go and make a manual adjustment on exactly how many credits they're assigning to each of those. And then there's actually a 4th step on the analysis. It's like you're saying, you're going to end up with a lot more proposals that maybe don't get any votes at all. No one actually has a strong opinion about the project, and so it doesn't get any opinions expressed. So then you also have to think about the threshold of what an approved project is, where you have to have some kind of minimal amount of votes that you got from the community, in addition to just how it was ranked. So those are all kinds of things that are going to be needed. And maybe I'll just say it now since we're getting late in the day, but I do want to get back to Igor's presentation, is our recommendation for Fund 5 is that we do this preferential quadratic voting just for the ideation pool as a preliminary experiment, because there is still a lot to learn, and we'll learn more when people actually use a system like this.
Yeah, that's a good topic to discuss in the work group. The first challenge that I see is the fact that we would have to split 2 ways of doing the vote in the voting system, which could bring more friction for us, right? But yeah, let's see what we can do.
Yeah. And we probably should let Igor finish because he has some nice results that's worth the community taking a look.
Okay. And I think you will also asked about in preferential quadratic voting, people voting in their proposal. So I think here is the point of Koenig said about taking the square root twice, because if you distribute your voting among more proposals, the penalty decreases. So the preferential quadratic vote help people to vote in more proposal, not voting in your proposal. Okay, but we have a problem with the preferential quadratic voting because, for example, imagine you have 1,000 credits. So you can distribute your credit in the proposal, and the grade of the proposal is the number of credits of that proposal. So the number of credits of a proposal can be really big. I don't know, 2,000, 5,000. So we need to choose the eligibility criteria different. We cannot set the criteria to be the minimum average grade to be 6.5. We need to change the criteria. So the criteria I am suggesting here is that the proposal to be eligible to be funded need to got at minimum 5% of the average of the credits of the individuals. So, for example, if one individual use the 50% of his credit in one proposal, and the 199 individuals use the 1%, then the average percentage of the credits they gave to the proposal will be very small. So the proposal will not be eligible to be funded. So we are using this eligibility criteria for the preferential quadratic vote. Okay. Now we can get the welfare calculation. Okay, so we need to calculate the welfare of the community with the outcomes of the voting. So to calculate the satisfaction of an individual with a proposal P, we need to consider the opinion or the sentiment of the individual about the proposal. So if the proposal was funded, the welfare of the individual is the opinion of that individual. So it is the utility of that proposal to that individual. So if you have a positive opinion about the proposal, you will be very happy. But if you have a negative opinion about the proposal, you will be not happy. Now, if the proposal is not funded, it is the opposite. If you have a positive opinion about that proposal and the proposal is not funded, then you will be very sad. But if you don't like that proposal and the proposal is not funded, so it's very good to you. And finally, if you skip the proposal, then you have no welfare to that proposal. Okay, so we take the sum of the welfare of all the individuals and we normalize that sum. What is very important here is that this welfare metric is sensible to minorities with strong sentiment. That's because we are simulating the opinion of the individuals with a coupled Gaussian. So the opinions can be very extreme, very big. So if you have some people very unhappy about some proposal, it will have a significant impact in the welfare calculation. So this is very important so we can really calculate how the whole community is happy or not happy about the results of the simulation, about the results of the voting. Okay, and now we get the results. And the results are, awesome because you can see here the preferential quadratic voting or unbounded quadratic voting here in the figure has a significantly higher welfare than the other voting system. So the simulation is more realistic here when the inertia of the individual is big because the people interact a lot with each other. And you can see the preferential quadratic voting provides a very high welfare when we make a comparison with other voting systems, like the SingularityNET and the one coin, one vote. Now, there is one thing very important here, okay? In this figure, everyone is honest, okay? So what do I mean by honest? When people are honest, it means the people will use the grades or the credits proportional to the opinions about the proposal. So if I like more a proposal, I will give more credit to that proposal, or I will give a higher grade to that proposal. So here, everyone is honest. And you can see preferential quadratic voting is winning. However, there is a problem. You can say not everyone is honest. Some people can be strategic. So maybe you think a proposal is grade 7, but you are afraid this proposal will not win, so you can vote with grade 10 on that proposal. Or maybe a proposal is from your friend, so you will also vote with grade 10. Or maybe it is your proposal, so you will vote with grade 10. So some people can be strategic. So I consider now in the simulation some possible strategies that people can use to vote. For example, you can have K extreme voting. In K extreme voting, the user will vote with grade 10 in the top K preferred proposal, and they will vote with grade 1 on the other proposal. We see some people doing that in Deep Funding. And in preferential voting, so they will concentrate the credits in the preferred proposal. We also have the K-skip extreme voting. It's very similar, but you vote with the grade 10 on the proposals you like, and you skip the other proposals. We also see a lot this in Deep Funding. Okay, and we have the K-exigent voting. The exigent voting is similar to the honest voting, but you only vote on your top K preferred proposal, and you don't vote on the other proposals. You also have total extreme voting, also very common. In total extreme voting, you vote with the grade 10 on every proposal you like. If you like that proposal just a little, I will vote with the grade 10. And I will vote with the grade 1 on the proposals I don't like. In preferential vote, I will concentrate my money, my credits, only on the proposals I like. And you have total skip extreme voting. It's very similar, but you vote with the grade 10 on every proposal you like, and skip the other proposals. Okay, so let's see, for example, how strategic behavior impact the SingularityNET. In the first figure, I have the welfare of the community, of everyone. In the second figure, I have the welfare of the strategic voters. And in figure C, I have the welfare of the honest voters. And I am increasing the fraction of strategic voters. So I want to see how strategic behavior will affect the welfare of everyone. So you can see that in general, strategic behavior decreases the welfare of the people when we are using the SingularityNET voting system. So here we use 500 voters, 48 proposal, and 6 polls, and you see this result. Well, for one coin, one vote, the results are very similar, actually, and the same for binary SingularityNET. The results are very similar. But here's the point. When we simulate to preferential quadratic voting, you can see that the welfare is almost constant for all the strategies. The community welfare only decreases if people do total extreme voting, and only when the fraction of strategic voters is very high. For example, 95%. So everyone in the community would need to be a strategic voter. And also, if you take a look in the numbers, the welfare of preferential quadratic voting is still very high, even in the presence of strategic voting. So, for example, in SingularityNET, it's about 0.3, one coin, a little X, and in binary also. But in preferential quadratic voting, the welfare is above 0.4. So this is very good, even in the presence of a lot of people who are strategic voters. Also, in the SingularityNET, for example, the welfare of the honest voters decreasing in one coin, one vote also, and also in binary SingularityNET. But in preferential voting, the welfare of the honest voter is increasing. So the final remarks, even in the presence of strategic voting behavior, preferential quadratic voting provides a significantly higher welfare than the other voting system from, for example, the voting system of SingularityNET now. So my next step is to consider in the simulation the effect of reputation and the correlation between the voters. And we can also investigate economic welfare and the benefits of the proposal. Because here we focused on the social welfare, but we can also simulate economic welfare and the benefits of the proposal, so people, money, and the planet. And we can test, as Kenrick said, we can test preferential quadratic voting in ideation pool in round 5, for example. Kenrick, please.
Well, finish your conclusion, and then when you're done, Igor, I'll make another comment.
Yeah, it is the conclusion.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was going to say is I was just going to clarify this last point here. We decided in this first simulation to measure the welfare of each wallet rather than the welfare of the coin. And there's
Exactly.
a trade-off between that. Obviously, the community cares about increasing the value of the coin, but we felt like as a first step, it was higher priority to make sure that welfare was being increased per person rather than per coin. But as I was thinking about the problem, what we'd like to do in the future in another round, if we continue with doing these kind of simulations, is actually have the ability to simulate increasing the value of the coin, and then, like we did here, increasing the value of the person, and then finally, we felt like it's, we're claiming to be a community that's going to be beneficial in the development of AI for society and for the planet. And so it would actually be good to have a metric that's sort of beyond the people in the community, but like, how does this impact the whole planet? Now, exactly how to balance those three and how you would integrate those three different kinds of welfare, that's kind of an open question. So we didn't try to do that in this round, but we will definitely propose that for a future round.
You have your own trilemma, right?
Yeah.
That's good. A question, I'm wondering if this welfare of the wallets, as you mentioned, Kenrick, instead of the coin, if the collection of wallets will be different when calculating and doing the simulations rather than or instead of solely wallet, or is the same?
I didn't quite understand the question.
You have the collections of wallets, right? That you can use for voting. So it would be the same outcome, considering you are measuring the welfare of a wallet. If I have a collection of wallets instead of only one wallet.
I think I understood this, and I can give it a go. Rafael, the way we're describing people, because the only way to know how a person is a person right now is by their wallet. So either their wallet's collection ID or their wallet. So the way we're thinking of people is anyone who owns a wallet in the ecosystem right now.
Okay, so regardless if I have a collection of wallets or a wallet, the outcome of the simulation would be the same, right?
So we have a different identification system. The only way really to identify someone as part of the ecosystem is by having a wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as you're asking that, Rafael, it occurs to me like another thing that's interesting to look at is we're kind of considering everyone to be voting, but of course, only a few people in the community actually vote, and then the coins are distributed much more widely. So there might be a need to think about, you have, lots of wallets, and then you have some fraction of those wallets that actually vote. And how do those voters impact the whole community, not just the people who are voting? That might be another thing to consider in the simulation.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Actually, there is one more thing I can show to you. When we calculate the welfare, we are only considering the opinion of the individuals about the proposal. So if we can calculate the economic welfare, maybe we should consider the coins, the balance of the individuals when calculate the welfare.
That's what I mean. That would be the distinction.
The coin.
Right now, we decided to do it per wallet rather than per coin. And that is a
Yeah.
choice. But it will be important to look at the other way to do it too, and then find some way to integrate both.
I think there is other
I
question.
don't anticipate a huge difference in this preferential quadratic voting being favorable simply because of, there is 20 years of research where people have done similar kinds of simulations, similar kinds of mathematical proofs. So right now we're feeling like we're kind of confirming what's in the literature.
Yeah.
Ao, you had a question?
Yes, great presentation there, Igor and Joanna. Thank you guys. Kenrick, very brilliant work, amazing work. And I was just thinking that I think this is going to be some context probably for the future, but it's also what, just thinking about. So there is a reason we have pools, right? And so when we are doing preferential quadratic voting, is it going to be segregated into pools, or I can just put all my votes around, or can I take my power from pool to pool? And I don't know if you get the question.
So this is a really
Interesting
research question too. We don't have a definitive answer on that yet, but let me explain how I've been thinking about it. I think it's better that people have to kind of spread their credits across more issues. So let's just talk about it in terms of one round first. So it encourages people to focus. Part of the point here is to encourage people to focus their time and their money on things that they have expertise in and they care about, and then not to feel burdened to have to spend time on things where they don't care as much or they don't have as much knowledge. So again, thinking about the user interface might start with, which pools do you want to make choices about? And then you might even rank your preferences across pools in terms of how many credits you're going to assign to pool. And then you go into a particular pool, and now you have a certain percentage of your credits for that pool. And now you sort out how you're going to rank within the pool. So my feeling is you want to do it at least that way, because the biggest thing that people have different expertise on is the different pools. Some people have expertise in marketing and want to kind of express strong opinions about that, whereas other people are developers and they might have a lot of knowledge about which new projects are of value. And I'll just finalize with this. I don't recommend this as a first step because it would be a lot more complicated. But ultimately, you might even decide that your credits get spread over 4 pools over like a year or two long period. And now you have to make a choice, like, how much do I want to spend on this particular round? And how much do I want to save for a future round? So those kinds of choices can be made too. That would be more complex, but it's worth researching on.
Thank you, Garrick. Thank you.
Thank you for the great question, Dale.
Thank you very much too. I think now Joanna
Speaker.
will talk. Yeah, Joanna?
Yeah, I can share my screen
Uh,
if you want, so it's easier. So I made some small updates as well.
okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we've touched on this already, which is really great, so I don't have to go into too much depth. But as for next steps or immediate next steps, if we are thinking this is a good approach to implement in deep funding would be to create an RFP on how we can enhance the user experience and user interface for the voting portal. And maybe the best approach would be to just test it in a beta round or in one of the existing pools, so maybe just the ideation pool or something along those lines. But so updating the voting portal, this is a lot of text, but I like ideally it would look like and what Kenrick kind of talked about is just like when you first go into the voting portal, and I think this also came up as a recommendation from our last proposal is in the voting portal itself, we kind of need either like some visual elements to explain a little better, how votes are casted or some tooltips. So any kind of visual elements that help the user in their voting experience, specifically explaining what this preferential quadratic voting mechanism is, and how their votes are casted, so they're not really confused when they actually see. And then the second one would be so you're able to actually see your total floating credit, which is your square root of your AJAX holding. And then you also have like a live credit counter where you're able to see like how your credits are discounted after you like put in a vote. But then as Kenrick was mentioning, and I just added this in as well, is like the option to shortlist. So what usually happens as well, like at least in my voting experience, is because you're voting as you go, you're not really like giving it a lot of thought, or you have to cross-reference with the other portal. So maybe there's an option to kind of do this beforehand where you shortlist a lot of the proposals that you know you want to vote on. There, I won't repeat what Kendrick said, but this kind of feature. And then based on your shortlist, then you can distribute your credit. So we'd like some sort of slider. So first you can input like a text or an input field for how much credits you want to allocate to this, or like a slider or whatever element works. And then you're able to assign it. And then after you're done, kind of like a summary, so like a quick breakdown of all of your allocations. But then if you have some remaining credits, kind of like a prompt, and maybe this brings you back to all of the proposals out of your shortlist or something. And obviously all of this should be iterative to kind of like optimize the user experience. And then we would need to obviously update the calculations and the eligibility criteria. So in our existing tool, maybe adjust a little bit of the algorithms in place on how your final voting weight is calculated, or any of the calculations that are in place. And then obviously just external communication and education to the community. So either through more workshops or sessions, Q&A, blog posts, things like that. I think this was also a really big recommendation, is that regardless of how many times we have these sessions, people are still unaware. Like people that have zero AGX are voting, which is very interesting. So there's clear gap in how votes are measured. So I think just an effort to kind of explain these better would be really beneficial. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Ayo, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I mean, thank you. But this is just on a lighter note that it's starting to sound like a checkout list, buying something on Amazon. So you put all the things that you want to
Right.
pay
Yeah,
for.
I like that
Yeah.
analogy.
Yeah, and then you can say I'm going to spend this amount of money on this amount of token on this, and then
Right,
yeah, so
right.
it's quite good because then you think about it.
Yeah.
Then and when thought goes into a thing, the thing is improved, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
As well, like usually with when you're designing product, you really want to design it in a way where you're gathering as much data as possible, by as well making the user experience very seamless. But by doing this, where you're prompting the user user, community member, voter, whatever we want to call them, to shortlist, you're also getting an idea of their preferences beforehand. We work with AI. The more we can gather this sort of information, the more we can support on, having either AI agents recommend certain proposals, like recommender systems, all of these things. So something that we could do, like when you shortlist your proposals, you vote on them, you still have credits. In the future, when we know enough about the voter, we can possibly start to recommend proposals that are within their expertise or something. So when you play with the UX like this, obviously you have to be very careful with recommender systems, but in general, you have a better understanding of the users and their experiences within the platform. Ubio?
I think one of the possible pitfalls or issues that may arise from this algorithm has actually been identified is that it has a potentially higher skip value as compared to other approaches, right? So in this approach, the probability that we're going to have more projects that may not even get any attention at all is actually high. So I think the implication of this is also in designing the UI for the vote. We have to probably think of probably to redefine the threshold for what an acceptable voting threshold would be. Probably that particular stuff would be totally removed, or it's going to be done on a pool by pool basis and not just generic. Because if we say, for example, that is going to be on a 1% threshold, and then we have more people focused, quote unquote, which has always been the case, on the new project pool as compared to probably the ideation pool, then there is a likelihood that we may have an entire pool that may not get funded just because, the threshold of people who were probably preferring a particular pool to vote on is actually higher. We may want to argue that that also means that probably this other pool may not have been desirable. Maybe true or not true, but I also think that before a pool is actually being put in, we should have already determined the desirability of it before even putting it in there, as compared to what we currently do have, where we just put in pools because we want to put in. So maybe in this new iteration that you guys are proposing, that should also be part of what we should propose. So that we can now have the confidence to say we can totally remove that threshold because the argument of was that pool needed, is it that people did not want those pool, that's why there was no vote already, is already removed, because we probably do the desirability of pools first before even entering. So in these pre-sessions before the main voting round can be about desirability of pools, where we actually vote for those stuff before even going for the main pools. And so in the long run, we can totally remove that threshold, knowing fully well that, all right, with a high skip capability, but bringing in a lot more user welfare and distribution of opinion, we can actually balance it out by ensuring that more projects still get funded, even with this model. But yeah, great work. We just have to keep fine-tuning it.
Yeah. As you're
Yeah,
talking
this
as
is an
well.
important thing to look at, Ubio. In fact, I had a conversation with Jan a little bit about this, and another way the threshold could be defined is that you have to get more support for depending on how much funding you're asking for. So for instance, it was kind of interesting at the beginning of the report, he was saying that the way people vote doesn't really depend very much on how much people are asking for. But of course, if you're asking for more funding, you should get more support for that. And then vice versa on the ideation projects, where it's only a small amount of money, then maybe the way the threshold is set should also reflect the fact that they don't need as much support in order for that project to get funded.
Well, I think also like this is what this these small UI changes would allow us to understand. I think right now we just have like a lot of data, but once you kind of tweak the experience a little bit, you're able to understand better how users behave. So yeah, exactly. Ubio, like that. if we're realizing that a lot of people are not shortlisting any proposals from this specific pool, then the result is no one really cares about it. But this is an easy way to determine that, I think. And as well, maybe like some surveys, which now that I think about it, maybe we should have done this already, but just like to analyze voting behavior, because I know there's two portals, and I'm not making an assumption, but do any of you like come to the voting like round already knowing what proposals you want to vote on? Because honestly, that's probably me. Like I'll know what proposals I want to vote on, and then I'll skip the ones that I didn't think about. So in some respect, we are already shortlisting, but more in our mind, and then we're incentivizing skipping. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that changes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
As we get to the close here, I'd also like to introduce Barry a little bit more. Barry and I met here in Boston. He's a recent PhD graduate of Brandeis University, and he did his dissertation on comparing governance of blockchain ecosystems. So he's done some really exciting research that's relevant to what we're trying to accomplish as a community, which is why we wanted to bring him onto the team. And he's going to be working on actually 3 projects, but the one with SingularityNET is the RFP design work that Joanna is currently doing in terms of how we advance the reputation system for the voting. And that project will incorporate some of the recommendations that Igor is making from his simulation in terms of changing the voting process too. And so, Barry, do you want to just take a second and introduce yourself?
I'm just going to make one small correction. I actually graduated from Bentley, just to make sure my
Bentley,
university gets.
we have a lot of
yeah.
universities here in Boston.
Yeah, no problem.
But
But yeah, as you mentioned, I finished my PhD in information systems, and I primarily focused on governance and different types of DAOs, blockchains, permissionless. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying to apply some of that knowledge and things I learned to some of these practical applications. So that was a really great presentation for everybody, and I'm happy to dive in and excited to get involved.
Great to have you with us, Barry.
Welcome, Barry.
Thank you.
Well, I can make a quick question as well, just to understand some things. So like all these simulations were done with the current number of users and wallets we have right now, correct? Okay.
Yeah, correct.
And do we
In
have
some simulations, I simulated more users. I simulated 500 users, for example.
okay. And you simulated just the numbers we have and the 500, and that's how the results were reached. Okay. Yeah, just
Exactly,
wondering
yeah.
the effect of the number of voters would have in the simulation. That's why I asked. Besides that, yeah, I think it's very nice in the sense of incentivizing users to focus on what they know and what they want to vote. I guess the only concern overall would be, I guess, maybe not incentivizing users to go further or like to go after or learn more about more proposals than the ones they had in mind initially. But I think
that's where the square root comes in, because like you're saying, sort of, if you didn't have that square root property, then probably people would just vote put a lot of weight on just a few proposals. But the point is that if you by applying the square root, you're kind of making this choice. If I put all my coins in one area, then the number of votes I have is reduced dramatically. Whereas if I spread all my credits evenly across a lot of proposals, then I have more votes, but then I've also had less influence over the process. So it forces people to think about how they want to allocate their resources.
Yeah, that's correct. I agree with that for sure. And then it comes to the goal of the person, if they're just focused on getting that proposal approved, or if they actually want to see more than one proposal and want to support if you
Yeah,
think
I think it also forces people to take their mathematics seriously now.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the cherry.
This is-
That's the cherry on the
Yeah,
cake.
this is a wonderful comment, actually. I talked to someone who actually implemented a quadratic voting system that was used in, I think, the Harlem district for some community input. And one of the things they said is that they didn't even try to teach the mathematics. They just set up an interface where people could see that their credits were like formed in squares. So, you know, visually you can show the mathematics visually by just using squares, right? So you kind of put your credits into the square, and then the number of votes you have is the edge or length of the square. And he said that actually people didn't have any problems using the system, and there was no need to provide any explanation about the mathematics. So that's another aspect of this where, on the one hand, the mathematics is important, but on the other hand, that has to be part of the background in terms of the user experience.
It's like blockchain. You don't have to explain what blockchain it is for people to use, right? That's the whole idea. It's about the use case, not the technology that it's behind. So let's keep it. I was about to comment exactly about this. This is for us to understand what's going on and to apply properly. But ideally, we have to go through, and probably through the marketing circle as well, with the education for it. And the education has to be like you teach a 5-year-old, right? That situation for people to understand. Okay, so if I do this, I'm gonna have this result. So that has to be the approach that we are going to have. Otherwise, we are now about what, 1 hour? Igor, Joanna, Kenrick talking about if we have to go through this with everyone in the community, it's not going to be effective at all. So having and then Kenrick, you brought another perspective, which might be not even education at all. It's the UI. So you put in the UI, it's going to be even easier for people to grasp what's going on and potentially reducing our effort as well. Of course, we have the development effort and etc. But this is a good way out as well on this complex. It's completely complex situation here that we have, right? Right, Igor?
I also want to give a shout out. I know they're not here, but Deborah and Walter have been pretty amazing with their reviews. So in all of the reports, they've provided a independent review, and then there was Igor and Andre provided some developer comments. So a lot of that was taken into considerations for future enhancements of the simulation.
Yeah, they helped a lot. I'm very grateful. And yet we have a lot of things to simulate. So, for example, Rafael asked about the number of votes. We can change people skipping our proposal. There's a lot of things yet to simulate. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. A question now related to the project itself. Are you guys done with the proposal project, or still has some phases to go on?
I'm pretty much wrapping the last final report, so that will be the last milestone for this. But I really hope we get to continue this, because in that report there's at least 5 different potential projects that could be worked on. So either us or any other community member.
Yeah, I can imagine. My question comes because now it's time of deployment. So, for instance, as we just talked about, if we need to change or to update the tooling that we have to have this as a next step, right? So it's to get the reports, to get you and put together with the dev team of SingularityNET and make it happen. Because at this point we have the theory, but we need to execute and put in place, right?
So in the report itself, we've outlined very specific UI enhancements, also really scaled them down to what could be achieved very easily. So we're more than happy to support on that front. If you need us to get on any calls or wireframe anything as well, we can definitely support there.
Yeah, that's great. Let's schedule a call with the dev team and make this happen. I am really excited with this. I really enjoyed the double square root thing.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very
approach.
exciting. It's been a thrill to have Igor on the team, and we should also compliment Andre, who was his advisor for his master's degree, who couldn't join us today, but he's the one that originally developed these simulation techniques that Igor has been using.
That's great. That's great. I'm missing the calls that Andrea is coming. I'm not, and then when I am here, he is not here. But soon we are going to be able to be in the same one.
Yeah, he's a busy man.
Yeah, indeed, clever and busy.
All right. So
well,
there's
thanks
no
so
more
much
questions.
for the support that the community has provided to us on these great projects. We're looking forward to doing more with SingularityNET.
Thank you as well for coming here, presenting, and getting the community involved in all of that during the process. You guys are always doing workshops and always coming here to present. I think that's very valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There will be, sorry, I'll announce this now, but there definitely will be at least a couple more community workshops as Barry and Igor and I and Dominic from Trust Levels continue with the next phase of the reputation and voting weight system. So we'll be announcing that also very soon.
Yeah, and also I'll give a plug. In 2 weeks, we've been asked, Igor and I are going to present a little bit more on this idea of having auctions for how to pay the community experts. So that's kind of a little side project. It won't be as in-depth as this simulation, but we're going to prepare a bit of more thought into that, how it would work, and discuss it with you all, so that, and again, the issue there is right now we're kind of just providing a minimum, not even like sort of a reward of $10 an hour for people who do work as part of the community. But for a lot of reasons, there probably needs to be a little bit more thought into how that's done, and we have a proposal that would use an auction kind of approach to it, that we'd like to get your feedback on.
That's great, Kenrick. Yeah. Well, in this sense of the milestone reviews, we are not talking about the expert reviewers, right? The expert reviewers are working in the round itself, and the milestone reviewers are working towards the development and deployment of the project.
It could be any role in which where we want the community involved, we want to compensate them, but it's hard to develop a model of what that compensation should be.
We are open to discuss this indeed, but it's very, very connected to the strategy of deep funding, the way we are. That's why we have $10, $20 as reward. But yeah, let's hear what you have to propose and suggest, and then we can go from there.
Very good.
Right,
nice to see you all.
Thank you so much. Let's wrap it up for today. And next week at 2 p.m. UTC, we have the open all ends. We'd love to see you guys there. And the week after, we come back to the town hall. So it was great. Thank you, Photrek. Thank you also to the Dev Outreach Circle. And I'll see you all in the next call. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.